Welcome to the third Livability in the Land of Enchantment series. Tonight's session is entitled Housing for All. That's with an exclamation point because we're excited about housing for all, right? So anyway, my name's Mike Lofton. I'm the CEO of HomeWise, and I'm going to be moderating the discussion tonight, but you're going to hear mostly from other people. And I think this speaker series is a 6-month program. Some of you have been, because I recognize a lot of you, have been to the first two. Kicked off Matt Desmond. It was terrific. It was like, wasn't that fun? Yeah, it was great. Not just fun, but challenging, right? I mean, it made you think. And then, of course, Dave over here reminded me that I had this idea there that we should all donate our $500 rebate from the state for doing nothing. So me and my wife we had $1,000, and he just told me, so have you decided where that money's going? So I'm doing it. I'm going to donate it to this campaign to get this new real estate transfer tax so we can fund affordable housing. But this is not just about affordable housing. It's about sustainability and livability, because we don't just live in houses. We live in a community, and it needs to be a livable community. It needs to be sustainable. We got to care about the planet. And these things all fit together, right? If there's one thing we take away from this series, it's like stuff is interconnected, and we need to pay attention to the whole. So I want to recognize our sponsors, the Santa Fe Community Foundation, the Women's International Study Center in Acequia Madre House. Do y'all know that place? Beautiful place. And you know they're going up for a special use permit so they can actually do stuff that people in Santa Fe who live in Santa Fe can enjoy that place. So when it comes up, go support them. And if you want to know when that's happening, ask Veronica, ask me, ask Johanna, ask if I don't know, Jordan's not here. Is Jordan here? But Jordan is the director there. She's terrific, doing a great job. But that's something that's about livability. We have the Santa Fe Action Coalition, who's been doing kicking it right now. Last night, boy, you guys rocked it. Danny Werwath, who works with the Housing Action Coalition, is going to be one of the speakers tonight. Adams Crow, Affordable Solar, and McCune Foundation, all sponsors. Then we also want to recognize the partners for this series, which is the Santa Fe Action Coalition. They're in 2 different roles. We got Mass Design Group, some of them are here tonight, Women's International Study Center, Friends of Architecture in Santa Fe, Urban Land Institute, Santa Fe Chamber of Commerce, Santa Fe Art Institute. Did I say that already? They get double billing. I meant to say also the Urban Land Institute. Yeah, see, I'm giving you a shout out, Jake. LifeLink, Metropolitan Planning Organization, and the City of Santa Fe's Office of Affordable Housing. All right. Something I do want to give a shout out to the Office of Affordable Housing. Prepared great data and information about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that if you were at the council last night, you heard about. Really want to thank Alexandra Ladd. Is she here? I think you guys did a great job. You know, I saw Alexandra earlier today. She goes, I got applause at the city council meeting. I'm not used to that. And then they don't like applause, so the mayor's like, calm down. It's like, man, he needs to give you this one. I mean, it's like, right? he deserves it. But I also want to thank Alexandra, not just for what happened last night, but just she's been the leader in charge of running the Affordable House Trust, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for many, many years now. I got to tell you that we use that thing. Lots of people use that thing. It is one of the most successful affordable housing programs in the city. It's one of our best programs in the city, if you ask me. It's it's known around the country. It does a lot of really good work, from helping someone fleeing domestic violence get safe place where they don't have to live in their car with their kids, from building new affordable housing to helping people get a down payment to buy a home, to building new rental house. It does it's so flexible is the power of it, and it does all this good stuff. So I think it's an untold story, and we should be very proud of what our city's done on this front. So we're translating this meeting, so you're going to hear simultaneous translation. So sometimes you'll overhear that, so it's cool. It's not someone talking. They're actually doing something really good. And so we're really grateful that we're able to have all these sessions in both English and Spanish. It's really important to include our entire community in Santa Fe. We're going to have some time for audience questions towards the end. I'm going to ask some questions, and we're going to open it up. They're going to accept questions electronically, and this is everyone. I've gotten 3 different people telling me to make sure I get this right. So if you want to participate, you got to go here, and you log on to the Museum Hill guest. I guess there's no password for that, but you log on there, and then you're going to say continue to the internet, and then you're going to see Slido there, and you can use that QR code to access that, so you can ask a question. Is that clear as mud? It's good? All right, so you know what to do. We'll figure it out. So anyway, so this is what I want to, if you want more information about your speakers, we're not going to read bios and stuff because we want to hear from them, but it's in the program. You can read their bios there. We have a really good panel. So tonight we're going to hear from, y'all can come up as I call your name. We're all going to sit here. And then I'm going to ask questions afterwards. So are you. So first person is, not to the end of what? When are they going to talk? And then they're all going to come, or just one at a time? Oh, okay. Well, I didn't understand that. So all right. So we're going to, okay, that's helpful. Now, why they ask me to MC something is beyond me. I'm good at asking questions, but these logistics things are, it's more than you know. So here's the people I'm going to bring up. So Paul Bradley, he's president of ROC USA. ROC stands for Resident-Owned Communities. Very cool thing. I've known Paul for a very long time. He's a great guy, heart of gold, and has put how to help residents control their mobile home communities or manufactured home communities, and put them in charge in a cooperative model that is just like a huge vision. People, he'll tell you more about it, but it's like, this was not it's not an obvious thing to do, not an easy thing to do, but these guys do it, they're rock stars. No pun intended. Second person is John Egan, who's the Mountain West Director of ROC USA 2. So they're going to be presenting together. Then we have homegrown Edward Archuleta, who runs St. Elizabeth Shelters, also I've known him a very long time, done a lot of good stuff in Santa Fe, a lot of civic engagement. Really looking forward to hearing about your project. Kurt Cran from Santa Fe Habitat for Humanity, who also does tons of good work, and it's a great guy. I've gotten to know him more than last year, and it's really fun, very collaborative. It's really fun. I mean, it's really nice to work with the housing people in Santa Fe because it is a very collaborative community. Daniel Werwath is the executive director of Interfaith Housing. He's going to tell you about his projects, but is doing a lot of really great rental housing in Santa Fe and other parts of New Mexico. And Jamie Jaramillo, who's our real estate development planning director at HomeWise, who's a pleasure to work with and just is doing great work, and really glad you're going to be presenting something cool as well. So the one thing before one thing I want to preface this with is we're showing very different housing models and how people have done affordable housing. And it's not because we're saying it's a smorgasbord you choose from. It's not because one approach is better than the other. That's not that. And we have these silly debates all the time. Well, what's more important, rental housing or homeownership or it's like, no, it's all important. So it's like a really, as you hear these presentations, I'd like you to be thinking, it's like, and especially in Western society, we have this both and default, right? Or not both and opposite. We have this either or way of thinking. Is this better than this? Is this better than that? Should we do this or that? It's a both and. It's many things. It's multiple things. So just keep that in mind. Like, if you're going to create a more affordable, livable community, what are all the things that it includes? It's not one thing. It's many things. That's why we deliberately chose examples of that spectrum of housing that is in different ways of doing things that are good for different people at different times in their lives. So that's why we did this, is to get a really good, and there's others that aren't here tonight, right? But it's rich and it's powerful when you do it right. So we're going to begin tonight with Paul and John, so you guys can come up, and they're going to talk about Rock USA and what they do for manufactured home communities, giving community control and improving those things. And then everyone is, you know the order you're in? When they're done, you're coming up. Right? Got that part right? All right. Paul and John. But I don't want to drop off.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? Can you hear me okay? I live in Colorado, but I'm a New Mexican. My heart is here, and it's so good to be back in Santa Fe, and God bless this town. What a great place to live. But I'm here to tell you about the Animas View Mobile Home Co-op that I live in with my wife, Kate, who is right down here in the front row. Kate, glad you're here. In 2020, on Christmas Eve, we got a message, we got a notice from a buyer who said, our seller, who said he was selling the park, and we had 90 days if we wanted to make a counteroffer to buy the park ourselves. So this was revolutionary. There's our board right there. This is revolutionary because up until the summer that this law was passed, nobody was required to tell the residents of any park in Colorado when their park was going to sell. The only way you knew it was going to sell was because you got a notice from the new buyer saying, hey, we bought your park, and by the way, your rent's going up $50. And this is the way it worked. Our park sold 3 times from 2017 to 2020, and every time it sold, it started out with an increase of $50 a month, and more rentals to go up from there. And so in 2021, Colorado legislature passed a law saying that sellers had to let parks know residents of parks know when their park was going to sell. And that gives them an opportunity to make a counteroffer. We had 90 days in which to do that. Like I said, we sold 3 times between 2017 and 2020. When we got this word, we formed a board of directors. And I forgot to back up when they asked for somebody to be president, so I ended up being the president of the board. And there's more stories about that I can tell you later. But in February of 2021, we started going door to door in our park, this little board of directors of ours, saying, we think we can buy our park. And we need to know if you want to do that, if you want to be a part of it. And by far and away, our residents said, absolutely, we want to be a part of this. And we didn't know how we were going to get it done. But once we were sure that we had enough people who were interested in buying the park, we contacted Thistle Rock. Thistle Rock is what we call a TA, a technical advisor organization in Colorado, who's an extension of Rock USA, and Paul's going to tell you more about that in a little bit. And we worked with them in that 90-day window to put together a purchase price of $14 million for the park. We did it in 90 days. And everybody said, you'll never get that done, but we did. In June of 2021, we closed on that deal. We owned our park. We had a great party. Let me tell you, it was a lot of fun. And at that point, because I was president and I'd done a lot of stuff even here in Santa Fe, boards of directors and so on, I thought, I've been pushing people around enough. So I decided I'm going to step down, let somebody else be president for a while, and that was the right thing to do. We have a great board of directors now that are doing a wonderful job of keeping our park running. So I was off the board, and then shortly thereafter, in March of 2022, I heard about a position with Rock USA as one of the directors of the board of directors. They were looking for a representative for the what they call the Mountain West region, which roughly translated means everything west of Kansas. Okay? And so I was appointed to the board, and I have to say it's been one of the most exciting and challenging things I have ever experienced. And I had no idea of the breadth and scope of what Rock USA really does. And once I got involved in that board, it was really amazing. One of the areas where I like to work is in policy and advocacy. And our board of directors, three of us, started doing some lobbying in Washington. We went to Senator Bennett from Colorado, Senator Hickenlooper from Colorado, and Collins? Yeah, and Cortez Mazo, and we were instrumental, kind of the spearhead on working on what's called the Price Fund, the Price Initiative. And what that is $225 million, which is going to go toward manufactured housing for infrastructure repairs. And if you know anything about mobile home parks, you know that the infrastructure is always the weakest link in a mobile home park. And let's see, what else am I going to add to that? Yeah, what we do is much bigger than working with mobile home parks. What we do is we build communities. What we do is we build diversity. What we are reaching out for is so much greater than real estate. And I cannot tell you how important this work is or how rewarding it is to see this come to fruition. And so I'm thrilled to be here. My New Mexico heart loves being back in Santa Fe. And it's a pleasure, and I'm very proud to be a part of Rock USA. Paul, you ready?
John, terrific. Nice job. Thank you, everyone, for that warm welcome. Great job, John. This is a sector of housing often overlooked and ignored. It sits halfway between homeownership and multifamily rental. If you haven't recognized, affordable housing in this country is organized around multifamily rental and single-family homeownership. Welcome to the middle ground. Both sides of that equation argue that this housing stock is not their responsibility. It's because homeowners like John and communities like Animas View step up and make their voices heard. That is changing not just at a local level, at statewide level, and also nationally. And super fun to be a part of, and as you can see, super inspiring just to have a chance to work with community leaders like John. There's partnerships going on around the country, a couple of Texas, Colorado examples of local government, state government stepping up to support homeowners. Before this housing stock simply gets acquired by private equity, generally speaking, far away private equity, there's a chance to secure it as locally owned, affordable home ownership, and that's what we're all about. So thank you very much. Look forward to your questions later.
Good evening, everybody. Can you all hear me? I'm Edward Archuleta. I'm the Executive Director of St. Elizabeth Shelters in Support of Housing. I'd like to begin by talking a little bit about the history of St. Elizabeth. Back in 1986, it was the Ronald Reagan era, and he cut a lot of social programs. Those of us who were around back then can remember it. And all of a sudden, there were a lot of homeless people on the streets all across the country, including here in Santa Fe. So a group of church leaders and business folks got together and said, let's open a homeless shelter. So they incorporated as a 501c3, and they hired the Sisters of Charity, who are the same nuns that started Christus St. Vincent here, to run the place. We're not affiliated with any religion. We are a 501c3. So back, they purchased a property on Ellery Street. I think most people are familiar with the men's shelter on Ellery Street. But we also have 4 other properties in town. We sleep anywhere from about 250, 260 people per night. So the first facility, of course, is the men's shelter on Ellery Street across from La Chosa. And then we have Casa Familia, which we opened about a dozen years ago or so. And that's for women and families. And that's on Berry Avenue off 2nd Street in Cerrillos. Then we have 3 supportive housing programs, consisting of 160 apartments scattered throughout town. The oldest one, the first one, and the only one that we built from scratch is called Sonrisa. And it's an 8-plex of 2- and 3-bedroom apartments for families, and it's out on Jaguar in Tierra Contenta. Then there's Casa Cerrillos, on Cerrillos Road, obviously. And it's 30 units for single men and women who are disabled. To back up a little, Sonrisa is fully HUD subsidized. Casa Cerrillos is half subsidized. And then the units that are not subsidized, folks pay whatever they can. We try to get, market value, but most folks can't. Obviously they're coming out of homelessness and they don't have a lot of money. And then last but not least, and the one I'm going to talk about now, is the Santa Fe Suites. So back in Alexandra Ladd, you can correct me if I'm wrong, back in 2019, I think it was, I was approached by the owner of the Santa Fe Suites. It used to be the Camel Rock Suites, and it's behind the Albertsons on Zia and St. Francis Drive. And the owner wanted to sell it, but he didn't want to just put it on the open market. He wanted it to be for a cause. And he knew about St. Elizabeth's, and he knew that we had these apartments, so he thought, wow, this might be right up their alley. So he approached me and said, I've got this property, there are 122 units, they're all efficiencies. Would you guys be interested in purchasing it? And I said, well, how much are you asking? And he said, $8 million. I said, well, that's a little bit out of our price range. Way out of our price range. So I said, well, why don't you approach the city? I said, Mayor Weber, who had been in office a couple of years, is very much into housing for the homeless and subsidized housing, affordable housing. And so he went to go talk to the mayor, and I think that's when Alex came into the picture. And so they were interested. The mayor's very interested. And I have to say one thing about Mayor Weber. He has been a huge supporter of St. Elizabeth's and all the homeless programs here in Santa Fe. He really has taken it to heart and really helped us a lot. So I wish you were here now to thank him publicly, but he's a great guy. So Alex and the mayor put together an ad hoc committee of all the players in town, St. Elizabeth's, LifeLink, Interfaith Shelter, a few other organizations, funders, and Quorum, the Santa Fe Community Foundation, to get together and to try to see how we could do this. And this is right when COVID hit, and all of a sudden there was lots of money being thrown at nonprofits and government agencies. And so the city applied for some money, and they got it. But the thing that was the key that really made the project happen was the mayor was friends with this woman by the name of Roseanne Haggerty, who was the executive director of Community Solutions, which is a national nonprofit organization based in New York City that works to end homelessness. As a matter of fact, the mayor, I guess Roseanne used to babysit for the mayor's kids when they were little. So they went way, way back. So he approached her and said, would you guys be interested in helping us put together this project? So she said, sure. So she sent a couple of her deputies out here. They looked at the property. They started looking at the numbers to see how it could work. And they said, yeah, I think we could do it. So there was all this COVID money available. So I think the city put in like $2 million, something like that. The New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority put in $2.5 million, I believe. HUD came up with some, no, actually HUD did not come up with some funds at the time. But the Community Solutions did all, the rest of the financing, or found social investors to do it. So they said, okay, we're going to do this. And they found another nonprofit here in town who's going to run it. So I stepped out of the picture at the time. I was not really involved all that much. I was busy just trying to keep all my clients and staff alive during COVID, which is another story. So it looked like it was going to happen. This other nonprofit in town said they would do it. Well, one day in the middle of November, I get a call from Alex Ladd from the city saying, "Hi, Edward. Would you guys be interested in running the Santa Fe Suites?" And I said, "What happened to this other organization?" She said, "They just pulled out." And I went, "Oh boy." And she goes, "Yeah. And we have to close by December 31st, or December 30th, 6 weeks from that date. Are you interested?" And I think I said, "Are you crazy, Alex?" Those were my exact words. And she said, well, I've known Alex a long time. We go way, way back. So she said, "Just think of all the people you can help. You can get all these folks off the street, blah, blah, blah. There'd be a real feather in your cap." I said, "Well, let me think about it. Let me talk to my staff and my board." So I went and talked to my senior staff, and they all said, "You're crazy if you take this project on. In 6 weeks, we have to pull together a staff and turn this motel into apartments." And I said, "Yeah, I think we can do it." And they were totally against it. So we went to the board of directors, and it was real interesting because I was in support of it, and my senior staff was all against it. So my board is going back and forth listening to all the pros and cons and stuff. And finally they said, "Edward, you want to do this? You're the director. It's your baby. You run with it." And then I went, "Oh my God, what did I get myself into this time?" So I called Alex and said, "Okay, we're going to do it." The next 6 weeks were probably the craziest, most stressful weeks of my life. I would wake up almost every night having panic attacks. I'd get up and just start pacing my house back and forth going, "Oh my God, what are we doing?" But, we did. I put together an incredible staff. They were all social workers, masters in social work. None of them had any leasing experience, though, which was a big mistake. Because all of a sudden I had these social workers doing leases. And they're all like, "What's a lease? What does this mean?" And I was like, "Oh God." It was pretty bad at the beginning. But we had to start taking people the day after the closing. We just didn't have time to sit around and put things together. It was like, boom, we had to hit the ground running. We also found out that when we took it over, we had 25 people who were already living there who were formerly homeless. And most of them had special needs, either mental health challenges or substance abuse or whatever. So we inherited. So anyway, it looks like my time is up. I could talk forever, as I told you. But anyway, it's a great program. We're really helping a lot of people. And I just want to thank the city of Santa Fe for helping us put it all together. Okay? Thank you.
Thanks, Edward. That was a great story. Being in the multifamily world, I can really feel the urgency that you talk about. Good evening. I'm Daniel Werwath. I'm the Executive Director of New Mexico Interfaith Housing. We're a affordable housing nonprofit here in Santa Fe that's part of a group, the Interfaith Group, which is about 7 nonprofits working across Texas and the Gulf states on affordable rental housing development, management, and resident services. Tonight, I'm talking about the Siler Yard project, which I believe is one of the most innovative affordable housing projects ever completed in Santa Fe. And for me, the idea of this type of affordable live-work housing started back in 2004 when I moved to Santa Fe, because I was like, where is all the resources for artists in this art town? So what is Siler Yard? It's a community-designed, 100% income and rent-restricted live-work project with 65 units of housing in 1, 2, and 3-bedroom configurations designed to meet the needs of creatives. It also is 100% electric and net zero energy, meaning it generates all the power it needs on its rooftops. The project started in 2012 when the local nonprofit Creative Santa Fe brought in ArtSpace, which is a national live-work affordable housing developer, to look at the needs for this type of space and do a market study. In 2014, they put out a request for proposals, and our team was chosen to lead the development. We started right away with a sites analysis and architectural procurement to get a team together, and we ended up honing in on the city public works yard on Siler Road. Now, one of the big criticisms of affordable artist housing up to date is that they often fail to reflect the communities where they were built, typically serving higher income and whiter constituents than the neighborhoods where they were actually going up. Luckily, with a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts, we were able to invest over $300,000 in community outreach and community-based design. We approached outreach very differently than many other community design processes. We partnered with more than 40 diverse creative community partners to produce vibrant community events that engaged both the surrounding neighborhood and diverse creative constituencies, and then made our architects figure out how to get useful information out of those situations. These events also help project diverse identities and spotlight some of the cool neighborhood things that were already happening, including these great portrait photos that were done by Kate Russell of some of the people already in the Siler neighborhood doing great creative work. Then we dug into a charrette process. After 30 plus community events, we gathered a group of about 36, what we call qualified constituents, people who actually qualified for affordable housing and were in really diverse creative fields. The whole process was designed around giving them decision-making authority over amenities, over how the project would look, what kind of features were in it, but in a push-pull way, designed around the idea that we can't have everything in affordable housing projects, right? So this is the design as it came out. It's designed to match the aesthetics of the neighborhood around it. It's a dense urban project. You can see it has parallel parking that helps bring the buildings in more closely. The units themselves are organized around a central live-work area. You can see they interlock, so we share a lot of wet walls and things like that. And they have a lot of specific features designed to meet the needs of a diverse group of artists here in Santa Fe. Some of the key aspects of it are that doing stuff like this is really expensive. I mean, I think that's like one of the biggest things to say is like we did a lot of work and it made a really expensive project because it's really awesome. It's what people wanted. It took over $2.1 million in donations from the city that allowed us to go get about $16.5 million of outside funding to complete the project. So that's the trust fund, again, at work. This all starts right about when the pandemic hit, if you want to talk about stress, like after 8 years of work. And this is what it takes to build all that and to turn this once underutilized city public works yard into this neighborhood, now housing over 120 people. Inside the units, what you see is what so many people asked us for when we were in the community design process, which was really a giant flexible space with a tiny kitchen in the corner. Let's see. Shared amenities in the site include a classroom, a gallery space, a multi-age playground, basketball court, grass area, laundry facility, and a mercado space where we can do outdoor events and things like that. One of the most critical community concerns was sustainability, and ultimately making Siler Yard a net zero energy project is what helped it get funded. It actually helped our financing and brought new sources in and brought in new funders who really wanted to support the sustainability aspect of the project. In addition to the solar, we have a utility scale solar system on the roof. We have passive water capture, super efficient appliances. We have the first commercial condensing clothes dryers in the United States made by Miele, which if you know, that's a whole other problem. And then we have hot water heaters that use heat pump technology. But now, most importantly, the project has people. One of the things that we learned from the process was that many people in Santa Fe in creative fields don't think of themselves as artists. And we actually, at a certain point, stopped using that term. The units are reserved for artists, first and foremost, even though if there's not an artist to fill them, a family would fill them. And we use an artist preference process where a committee from the community establishes someone's dedication to their process, a need for space, and a desire to live in a creative community. That's the threshold that people have to meet to live there. When we opened the application process, we did a bunch of things to try and make it more accessible. We did things like paper-only applications, bilingual. We did Spanish and English information sessions about how to apply. We actually paid groups to go out and do outreach and find people to apply. And we had something like, I would say, 40 plus Spanish language applications on the first day. There are so many lessons learned from this process that I think should inform how we approach affordable housing. First, that like city land donation and affordable housing trust funds are the most powerful tool we have to leverage outside investment and make things happen. Also, that true community processes are super hard. They're expensive, they're costly, they're hard on the people that do them, and they really result in projects that cost more money. But most of all, I think we learned that including people you want to serve early in the process, giving them real decision-making around the project, projecting diverse imagery from your site before it's built, things like that really pay off. And now, after this nearly decade-long process to build the project is coming to a close, it's now just the beginning of a place creating its own culture, identity, events, gallery shows, and murals that will evolve for decades to come. Thank you.
All right. Good evening. I'm Kurt Cron, and I am the Executive Director of Santa Fe Habitat for Humanity. I was totally prepared for these rapid-fire slides, so if I talk fast or talk too slow, please talk in the mic. All right. I will. All right, I'll do that. Now I can understand why Mike was leaning over and Dania. So again, as I was saying, I'm Kurt Cron. I'm the Executive Director of Santa Fe Habitat for Humanity. I have been in Santa Fe for about 3.5 years. I started at Habitat talking about stress right about when COVID hit. So I'm on the same page as these gentlemen. A little bit about Habitat. I think there's a screen up there that has our mission statement, but let me just say one thing that Habitat wasn't founded by Jimmy Carter. It was actually started in Georgia by a couple called Millard and Linda Fuller, and they developed this concept of partnership housing. Just a little bit about Habitat. We are a builder, we are the lender, we're the mortgage servicer, and many of you have been to our Restore, which funds our mission. What we do is, our model of homeownership is actually selling homes to qualified buyers. We serve 30 to 80% of area median income. I don't think there's many folks in Santa Fe who are doing that. And we sell the homes at 30% of their income. We require them to perform sweat equity, which is 350 hours of sweat equity, which is really construction on the home for a single person, or 500 hours for a couple. We use volunteers in all of our projects, and we do use some subcontractors. So we really try to support the community in that way. Our current development is Plaza Bonita, and Plaza Bonita is certainly not our largest development, but it is an example, I think, of what we do best. And I think is where on that screen, just talking a little bit about Plaza Bonita. This project is on developer-donated land, which satisfy the requirements for affordable housing with the city of Santa Fe. We also received affordable housing trust fund dollars for this project. We this project was also done with MFA and money with the New Mexico Taxation and Revenue and the Affordable Housing Tax Credits as well. So that's a big part of what we do. We offer those tax credits. We also receive tax credits for those projects from individual cash donors as well. Going on, we also partnered on this project with the Santa Fe area home builders. What we call is Hacienda Build. Hacienda Build was done with the home builders, and we also secured donations from the Home Builders Association and their members in terms of over 23 donations, which is a big part of that, what that is. This project is also Adobe. We've done Adobe construction on this home. Not only Adobe, but actually all of our homes are net zero or greater. Part of Habitat's mission is making home ownership affordable, as with all projects. And by providing the solar, we're obviously making it more affordable for the homeowner. As we all know, or maybe don't know, that most affordable homeowners are low-income homeowners are paying a greater portion of their income towards utilities. So all of our homes are net zero, ready to go. And Habitat does also install all of the solar themselves. We actually do that ourselves also with volunteers. Let me continue on. Back to the tax credits. I think as Daniel mentioned in his presentation, we also use the sustainable energy tax credits in our projects. That brings down the cost of the solar. So really, we've gotten to about $7,000 to be able to install solar into our homes. Using volunteers, and those tax credits make it actually almost a break-even scenario on those projects. We incorporate Youth Build and Youth Work students. If you don't know, the Youth Build program is a Department of Labor funded program, and we incorporate those students into all of our projects. Those students are actually coming out 4 days a week, and most of those students are also doing that work with us, with YouthWorks, and also studying for their GED, which I think is pretty great. We've also been able to incorporate many of those students into our programs and our staff at Habitat. We bring out, Habitat's focus is on volunteerism, right? So we actually also use Santa Fe Community College's master's program. We also have brought out Santa Fe and Capitol High Schools on this project. We also bring in church groups as well. We also run out-of-state, we have programming for out-of-state university groups that come as well. We've recently hosted a Veterans Build. We've had a Pride Build. One of our longest standing programs is our Women Build. I always want to say Women's Build, and I'm trying to be grammatically correct there. It's one of our most successful and inclusive builds. And we've had actually great support from the Santa Fe Women Realtors. So that's been a great partnership. But really what we do is build with our volunteers, with a group of regular volunteers and community volunteers. We really couldn't build our homes without our volunteer support and without our families. I was just looking at this project itself. We had calculated 8,571 hours to date on the project of just 2 homes in Plaza Bonita. So I think that's pretty remarkable. Considering the fact that we only have 2 paid construction staff, all of that work is being done by volunteers. That really lowers our building costs. So that makes those homes affordable. I think it definitely creates a sense of community. And looks like I'm talking faster than my slides. So we're quite to the end. We're almost to the end. But I think that really shows the 8,571 hours really speaks to what we do. Everything we do is volunteer based. So every single day, every project we have, we bring in volunteers. Whether it be YouthWorks, Youth Build, we use also AmeriCorps volunteers in our projects as well. So it's really about partnerships and making Santa Fe a community as well. So thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. This is the one opportunity that I'm going to take for being short. That's a positive thing here in the microphone. Hopefully everybody can hear me. This evening, I'd love to tell you about the HomeWise special sauce for achieving affordability in Santa Fe. A little bit about the organization and then about one of our projects. And we achieved affordability in this project through 3 ways that I want to talk about: diversity, subsidy, and density. Now, first, a little about HomeWise. Our mission is really simple: create successful homeowners. We help our clients build wealth through homeownership, and we improve the communities that we work in the process. When someone starts working with us as a client, we are there with them through every step in the home buying process. They attend a free financial fitness class, homebuyer education. We are there with them on one-on-one financial coaching, and once we qualify them for a loan, they receive real estate sales assistance. Finding a home is challenging. That's why we're all in the room, right? In this market. And once they find the right home, we offer fixed rate affordable home loans, down payment assistance, and in-home loan servicing. After offering these services for several years, we found how difficult it really is to help our clients find affordable homes. So that's what helped us get into real estate development. And as such, our philosophy at HomeWise is that developing infill housing, which is housing near existing transportation corridors, residential neighborhoods, and commercial centers, best serves our mission, our clients, and the environment. El Camino Crossing is a model infill development project on 8 acres, which includes 73 homes and achieved 30% affordability. That's over 20 affordable homes in this one community. ECC is located on Agua Fria and Harrison and includes a mix of uses: 40 single-family homes, a quarter-acre park, 23 residential condos, 10 live-work units, and about 8,000 square feet of future commercial space. Now, just to clarify something real quick, the term mixed use is used a lot in this industry, and I just want to talk about it briefly. ECC is a mixed-use project because the residential homes, the live-work units, and the commercial space, they're all located on the same property. And the intentional integration of the commercial and the residential makes it easier for people to walk to commercial and services, and reduces the number of cars on the road, and strengthens the viability of the commercial businesses on the site and nearby. Also, the location of El Camino Crossing makes this project a model infill project because of its proximity to bikeways and open space. Very important. The Santa Fe River Trail, the Acequia Trail very nearby, in addition to major transportation corridors of Agua Fria and Siler. Also, ECC is in the center of one of the largest employment hubs in the city of Santa Fe, the Siler-Rufina Nexus. And adding homeowners in an area of high employment that is well connected via multiple modes of transportation is essential to the successful future of Santa Fe as a vibrant and livable city. Now, I'd like to switch gears a little and tell you about how we achieved 30% affordability at ECC. The first element, diversity. The most important tool that HomeWise used at ECC and in our other communities to create affordability is our laser focus on creating mixed income neighborhoods, where affordable homes are built right next door to market rate homes, where they have the same design, they're built with the same materials as market rate homes as well. This model also helps to support the sale of the affordable homes with the sale of market rate homes. Another way that this project achieves affordability through diversity is in housing type. As I mentioned before, ECC has different housing types: single family, live work, condos. Take the live work housing type as an example. This is not a unique concept or new. Live work is one of the oldest forms of housing. For centuries, cities, towns, and villages, they had shop houses where commerce, housing, and business all took place on the same property. However, in the Industrial Revolution and advances in transportation technology, as well as traditional zoning codes, they essentially made live work illegal. History aside, though, HomeWise really believes in this housing type, that it empowers small business owners to own their own home and place of business as one in a supportive, diverse community of business owners and homeowners in various income ranges. Okay, that was diversity. Now, another important element that to achieve affordability here at ECC is subsidy. And I want to be clear here. HomeWise cannot develop communities and build homes for low and moderate income families without subsidy. Subsidies like the New Markets Tax Credits program, which attracts private capital to communities that need investment by allowing investors to receive a federal income tax credit in exchange for making equity investments in community development projects just like ECC. Down payment assistance is another subsidy that's used to lower the market rate price for low and moderate income buyers who wouldn't otherwise qualify for a mortgage. It's placed as a secondary lien on the home. And the benefit to this approach is that these funds can be recycled. When a homeowner sells their home with a down payment assistance lien, those funds are then returned to HomeWise so that we can help more borrowers. For one HomeWise family at ECC, these subsidies meant that they could purchase a single-family home with a market rate price of $304,000 for $198,000. For another resident, these subsidies made it possible for her to afford a live-work condo with a market rate price of $390,000 for $150,000. HomeWise successfully supported 21 homeowners at ECC with down payment assistance, and that is huge. Again, HomeWise achieved 30% affordability overall at ECC, which is 10% more than is required by the city. That's right. The city requires that developments plan for affordability. This requirement is carried out through the city's inclusionary housing program and zoning ordinance called the Santa Fe Homes Program, which HomeWise actually helped to write initially. As a part of this program, for sale communities are required to set aside 20% of the units as affordable homes. The pricing and size of these homes is all set and regulated by the city's Office of Affordable Housing and is based on the city of Santa Fe's income ranges. Now, my apologies, I do tend to get into the weeds, but I do think it's important to share some of the detail. I'm going to try to stay out of the weeds on this one and talk a little bit about density and how added density in a project like this can create more units. The reason density is really important in this conversation is because density means more affordable housing opportunities through allowing for the construction of more units on limited land, reducing the per unit cost of housing, and added efficiencies. Again, HomeWise achieved affordability at ECC by applying all three of these methods. What I'd like to leave you with is HomeWise's belief that homeownership is affordable housing, because owning your own home gives families and individuals autonomy. It promotes wealth through increased home value and acts as a buffer against gentrification through stable housing costs over time. And the benefits enable homeowners to make choices about long-term wealth creation, such as cash-out refinancing, saving for education, and helping future generations with down payments. Homeownership is affordable housing.
So one thing I just wanted to comment on is like listening to everybody, super impressive, super cool stuff. I mean, it's like, you know, Ed Archuleta's leadership that he exercised, it's phenomenal. Something they've never done. It's like, man, this is kind of scary. You know what? That's what leaders do. I think the risk taking you all take, the leadership you exercise. I think the willingness to learn something. Okay, now got to learn about these leases. You know, it's an important thing, right? But that's how we learn. That's how we are able to do more and more, and that's what it takes, is this entrepreneurial approach to this work. So I just really respect everybody who's up here for all the leadership and risk-taking and the ability to do stuff that lots of people think, yeah, I don't know why I want to do that. So that's what it takes. Another thing I wanted to say is, like, talk about a housing spectrum here, right? You got someone who's worked on housing that helps people not be homeless anymore. Rental housing for artists who aren't making a lot of money. It's you got that, right? Net zero. They don't have a electric bill. It's like, you know, that's really affordable, right? That's amazing. I think this, you know, you heard from Paul and John about ownership and rental that goes together in mobile home communities, right? And people do this in land trusts and that kind of thing too. So it's this hybrid approach to this that's in the middle of that spectrum between that rental housing and ownership. And then you heard from Kurt about home ownership that's targeted at the very low income people, as low as 30% of the median income. That's not an easy thing to do. And then Jamie talked about the importance of mixed income home ownership communities. And you know, and that's, you know, that's a really good thing to do too. So we're really getting to the entire spectrum of what people need for good, safe, affordable housing, right? So want to toss it over to you guys. It's like this spectrum of housing. You know, what are your thoughts on it? How does it fit together, right? And do you have ideas on how people who are doing this different kind of work, how do we work together, right? Because there's one housing market. There's not a mobile home market and a rental market and a home ownership market. People pay for housing, right? So if people aren't buying homes, they're not leaving rentals and freeing them up for somebody who needs the rentals. If rental housing's too expensive and you can't save for a down payment, you're going to limit home ownership, right? So these things all go together. And I often wonder in this sector, are there ways, we know this, right? This is not something we don't know, but are there ways that we could do that, the mobility through that housing spectrum, which some people call the ladder of tenure, right? Many people, they want to own a home, but could we help them? People are in Ed's place and they want to get into a bigger apartment, but how do we help that mobility so they can get in that? I mean, I know all of us who've done home ownership, I mean, I'm surprised at the number of formerly homeless people who bought a home through home loans. They didn't go from the street to a home. There was a trajectory, but they ended up becoming a home. And you know, this is like mobility. This is the American dream. Right? This is what we're supposed to be about, American opportunity and mobility. So what are your, who would like to talk about mobility, how we could do this better, how we could make it more deliberate?
I think one of the ways that we can make the process easier is by doing what we're doing today. Having conversations across the same industry, but we're all in housing in a different way. Just before the session started, I was having a conversation with Kurt about one of the problems that he's having trying to get one of his projects up and going. And so we're just sitting there spitballing, talking about how to make that better. And I think by doing this, holding these sorts of sessions is really important to moving the conversation forward for all types of housing and problem solving together.
I'd add too, I think of it like an ecosystem, right? And what we're trying to do is create the healthiest ecosystem we can so all the different pieces can interact. And so, yeah, absolutely. Working, not being like so busy figuring out how to do leases that you can have time to do this stuff would be great. Like leveling down the urgency, I think, is a big one so that we can do that coordinating work, because I think that is a big problem in the industry. But also, I think making the healthiest ecosystem we can in the town around land use, around how hard we make it to build new housing. Because the problem with affordable housing, we're not going to protest our way there. We're not going to stop our way to affordable housing. It has to be built. And we make it really hard to build it. And we probably spend, I don't even know, half of our time working our way through these processes to do something everyone says they want to do. And so thinking about how do we create a more healthy ecosystem where the things we say we want happen easier, faster, and people like us can spend more time coordinating and figuring out how residents at Siler Yard can walk up the street to HomeWise and get their homebuyer education and get on that path, right?
Well, I just want to comment on what Mike said a minute ago. We have had clients at St. Elizabeth Shelter who've gone from the streets, living under a bridge, to staying in the shelter, to moving into Sonrisa, the transitional housing program. And they can only be there for 2 years. And in those 2 years, they saved up every penny to buy a home. And I've always been blown away when I see somebody go from the streets to the shelter, to an apartment, to home ownership. So, and a lot of it's because of HomeWise. So I just want to say thank you for everything you've done for our clients.
The first thing that comes to my mind is that, we're all housing people, right? And we want to build communities. But I think back to Jamie is that this group, this presentation makes a lot of sense. We can't build communities unless we're a community ourselves, right? So I think this is equally as important as the work that we do building communities, finding tax credits, looking at crunching numbers, coming out and speaking on positions. Actually, I had a meeting with Mike earlier today, and he's like, when are you going to speak about this, Kurt? But to the point is that we're a community, and I think this group and everyone in this room who's interested in affordable housing is part of that community, and I think it makes the work we do better and more fulfilling.
I'd share two thoughts. First, you live in a beautiful place. You have a very special piece of Mother Earth here, and you can get your arms around this. There are a lot of parts in the country. I was in Philadelphia 2 weeks ago. That is a bear to get your arms around. You can get your arms around this and create this ecosystem, which I think is exactly right. And two, I would say, welcome to the complexity of affordable housing. It is an incredibly challenging field, endlessly underserving the need, and the unhoused population across the country is case in point of the inadequacy of affordable housing across the spectrum. But on the hopeful side is you've got some great examples of organizations, all of which need to be better resourced to be able to step up and meet the need where it's at. And I'm really impressed, Alex, with all that's going on in the city among the practitioners here. And I hope that there's a place for homeowners and manufactured home communities to be a part of what is really important, preservation of affordable housing here in Santa Fe.
Thank you. I want to go back to the people who are in this room. We are all in the affordable housing business in one form or another. That's why we're here. We don't need to be talking to each other. We already kind of understand the problem. We're all working in one direction to try and create affordable housing for people who need it desperately. What we need to do is we need to be talking to the public. We need to be making the issue understood and making it clear that, yes, indeed, people can have affordable housing. People can own, as we do at Animas Mobile Home Park. We can own our homes, and it can be affordable. And let me tell you, when you go out and knock on the door of a mobile home in the middle of February during COVID, and you stand there and you say, I need you to give me $25 because, I don't know, maybe we can buy our trailer park, but I'm not really sure we can. And we just need to raise $14 million in the next 90 days. What do you think? And the answer was, the people we talked to put up that $25, even if it meant that they were going to have to go without something else. Dreams can happen. But we, as people in this industry, need to be talking to the people who need it.
That's great. Yeah. So, like one thing you've heard in every presentation mentioned one way or another is the importance of resources and specifically subsidy that makes things affordable. Now, land use matters, right? It matters that if you don't have any homes being built, or there aren't enough homes, you got to build stuff. There's nothing to subsidize, right? But so you got to have that. You got to add to supply. And those of you who were at the last Livability Series speaker with Rick Jacobus, the topic was, can you build your way out of an affordable housing crisis? And I think his conclusion, no, you can't. That's not the only thing. You have to build stuff, but you also have a deliberate strategy to make it affordable to people who need it to that entire spectrum. So subsidy is the key. You have to have subsidy for the people who've been locked out, who can't afford to live within the market. So you heard different things like federal subsidies, state subsidies, private donations, which Habitat is rocks and getting private donations for what they do in volunteer hours. That's a subsidy. They rock at that. You heard Jamie talk about the HomeWise model is that how market rate housing cross subsidizes the affordable housing, right? Now, if there's other public subsidy, those percentages of affordable housing can go up, right? So because you don't have to make it up with all the market rate loans. So it's such a key ingredient of this. So I want to get comments on that and specifically around, we have, I think we're very fortunate to have some public leadership in this town with Councilor Renee Villarreal and Councilor Jamie Cassett, who just now, it's in the news all the time, last couple of weeks about this whole, how we're going to support the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that Alex Ladd and her team work on. That's not federal money. It has less strings, right? So I'd like to talk a little about what the subsidy, how you think about subsidy, how you leverage it, how you leverage private money, and more specifically, why is something like a local subsidy source like the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, why is that so central and important to what we do?
Let me just kick that off by flashback 10 years ago when homeowners in mobile home parks were buying their communities without public subsidy. The reason why you see homeowners like John and many others around the country stepping up in public forums is the world has changed in manufactured housing. The influx of private equity, as within single-family home ownership, the influx of private equity players into the manufactured housing business has driven up values to such a point. Let me just say, there's a hidden affordable housing crisis in Santa Fe's mobile home parks. Those properties have been owned for many years, sometimes by local owners, have maintained site fees below market. As the market has been redefined, the mobile home park site fee market now is based on 2-bedroom rentals. And so no longer are investors comparing their site fees to other mobile home parks. They're looking at what's happening across the affordable housing spectrum and where do these homeowners go. The reality is there's no place more affordable than owning a home in a mobile home park. We serve 30% AMI in communities across the country. 50% of co-op members earn 50% AMI. This is a naturally occurring affordable housing stock that's under threat, and that's why you see, us much more in public forums. The city of San Antonio stepping up for a 38-home community in San Antonio. In Golden, Colorado, last week, the city council approved $2 million for a 39-site community that's being preserved through resident ownership. It is the hidden affordable housing crisis. This ignored housing stock is about ready to wake up, and we've got a lot of very vulnerable people. So that is welcome to the party, right? All the need that exists already. We have some new entrants that are going to be in need. That's what's going on.
Well, I can just speak to that. At Habitat, I can firsthand see the issues with mobile home. We see a lot of homeowners coming from mobile home parks who have no other place to go because they've lost that affordable housing. That's something I see oftentimes. There are those folks who are being transitioned out of that, and there is no other affordable housing in Santa Fe that's going to meet that 30, 50, 60, even 80% of area median income. But back to just talking about subsidy as well, I know I touched on and Mike touched on the, we receive at Habitat, a lot of donations, but we can't, what really sets those donations apart is the funds those funds are all tied to Mortgage Finance Authority and those affordable housing tax credits. So for every one of those donations over $500, we're able to offer to our donors 50% off of their state tax liability, and those credits are also good 5 years going forward, and also can be used and can be brokered and sold. So they can be used on gross receipts tax if it's a corporate donor. So back to partnerships, we really focus on utilizing those pieces because it's such an important to our cash donations, to those relationships that we have with the home builders. That's an important piece. And again, the Santa Fe Affordable Housing Trust Funds is also a super important piece. But those subsidies really drive our donations, but they also drive our in-kind donations, which really go into the construction of the homes.
Thank you, Kurt. I want to comment on two things about mobile home parks. What I've seen here in Santa Fe, which is even worse than increases in rental space or anything like that, is the destruction of mobile home parks. I grew up here, I was born and raised here in Santa Fe, and over the years I have seen so many mobile parks being bulldozed for commercial developments. A prime example was, we all know where the Hotel Santa Fe is. It's a great hotel, I like it. But on that site was a mobile home park for many, many years in the corner of Cerritos and Paseo, right downtown. And I remember when the hotel decided, wanted to build a hotel, and all these folks got displaced who had been there for years. I've seen this over and over again on Cerritos Road. A lot of the commercial development, especially on further south you go, were mobile home parks. And a lot of them you didn't even know existed because they were behind trees or fences. And it wasn't until the developer came in and said, hey, I'm going to buy this and you're all out of here. It's really hurt a lot of people in Santa Fe over the years. The second thing is about subsidies. St. Elizabeth would not exist without subsidies. We get city money, county money, state money, federal money. The two shelters get money from the New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority to help us. And as I mentioned before, Sonrisa and Casa Cerritos are HUD subsidized. And then lastly, which I didn't get to but because I was talking too long in my presentation, but Santa Fe Suites, the city, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, we get $250,000 a year from them to help pay people's rent. And it's helped a lot of folks because obviously, like I said before, folks come out of homelessness, they don't have a lot of money, and they finally get an apartment, but they can't afford it. They don't have the rental money. And thanks to the City of Santa Fe Office of Affordable Housing, they can have a place to live. And there's some folks that we pay 100% of their rent. Most of those folks are waiting for their Social Security disability to kick in so they can start paying their own rent. And other folks, we pay maybe $100 a month, $500, whatever. So it's really helped a lot of people. So thank you, Alex. You really have helped us out a lot. You've kept a lot of people housed. Thank you.
I think the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is a great example. I'm just thinking back in my head. I think the first time I interacted with it was back in 2007 or 2008 when we launched the first homebuyer assistance programs, right? Down payment assistance. That was one of the first things. We've used it to design senior housing projects, affordable housing projects. In Siler Yard, we had land and about $400,000 of local funds. That commitment allowed us to go out and show that we had enough local support to score the highest part possible to win $10 million of subsidy that made the project possible, right? We're competing for these subsidies statewide, and that local investment allowed us to then win this bigger pot of money. So not only is it about flexibility, right? Like federal housing money won't pay for homebuyer assistance over 80% of median income. Well, the problems here go up to 150, right? And at least our trust fund can go up to 120, right? It can meet local needs, but it can leverage these bigger sources. And I think that's the real key, that it helps us be more competitive to bring in more resources and these multiplier effects that really help it. And I think, we should probably stop just thinking about it as subsidy, because it's really investments, right? They're local investments in things. Siler Yard got $400,000 of public money from the city. We paid $1.2 million in GRT when we built that project, right? That's the money we just paid back in tax when we did it, right? And so these are things that really have broad prosperity that come from them. They are not subsidy, they're investments in people, in disposable income, in jobs, in really bringing in more property tax revenue, gross receipts revenue. I mean, it's nothing in the public sphere is like this. There's no other money like this. There's no other spending. When you repave a road, you repave a road. You pay a contractor, you get a little bit of GRT, you get some short-term jobs. This is a whole other world. It is a whole other magnitude of impact in the community, in many cases, for dozens of years, decades after. So I think that's the really big difference.
I'm going to talk about flexibility, because the Santa Fe Affordable Housing Trust Fund is one of the most flexible options of subsidy that we have used. I think almost everyone up here has talked about a different way of using it. And not only is it flexible, but it also has a known process for how you go about applying for it, a very clear way of applying it. And then asking for leverage with the organization that's using it. And we receive subsidies from other sources, investments rather. We receive investments like state capital outlay. And state capital outlay has an 18% administration fee. So on a project where we receive $500,000, nearly $100,000 of that goes toward the administration. So knowing that the Santa Fe Affordable Housing Trust Fund has a process and a known way of applying it is very, very important. And having a constant stream of money toward the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is also something that needs to be considered.
We're going to take a couple of audience questions. So Paul or John, what state or local level laws must be adopted to protect mobile home park residents in New Mexico?
Wow, what a great question. How much time do you have? For us, initially, what really worked for us was House Bill 2021 in Colorado legislature. And what that provided was what I talked about earlier, which was that owners of mobile home properties have to let their residents know that that mobile home park is up for sale, and give them a window in which to put together a deal. We started out with that 90 days where we earned, made $14 million that we could buy the park with. It's now up to 120 days, which is just a blessing, because putting that kind of money together doesn't happen overnight. And just in terms of legislation, you need to talk to your legislators. You need to talk to them about the problems that you face in all aspects of affordable housing. And I'll tell you what, it works. We had at our home in Animas Mobile Home Park, we had Senator Bennett from Colorado, Senator Egan from Colorado, State Representative Barbara McLaughlin, thank you. We had them actually come to our park and look at the park and begin to understand what parks are really about. Because I'll tell you what, your legislators don't know. Your city councilors don't know. Unless they live in a park, they do not know what parks are all about. Really what parks are small cities themselves. We have the same problems that big cities have, only we have to deal with those problems ourselves. Talk to your legislators. We're enacting a program right now where we are inviting legislators of all stripe, from federal down to local, to come to the parks and visit. We're putting on an exhibition for them to inform them about what mobile home parks are really about. And I'll tell you what, once they see it, once they hear about it, once they understand it, all of a sudden you will have a very sympathetic ear to talk to about what those needs are.
Thank you. Daniel, what opposition did you face to Siler Yard and how did you overcome it?
Which, I think when you boil it down, there's a few different types of the core opposition, right? One was just the general opposition to larger projects and apartment projects in Santa Fe, which is pretty common. It's not a historic project, whatever. Like go to Chaco Canyon, Taos Pueblo, and then we'll talk about it some more later. But like the just automatic response to larger scale projects. Big pushback from BIPOC communities around how live work projects have been implemented in other places, rightfully, right? Like BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people call it. They felt left out of sort of the idea of artists being sort of more a, like fine art driven thing, something for white people. And so we spent a lot of work really like working with people who paint cars, which is like one of our greatest local art forms if you've ever dug into it, right? Like really looking at what that is for our community, redefining what artist is for our community, trying to overcome that. One of the approaches I had was just, I went and met with anyone who had a concern, right? And so that was one of the biggest ways that we helped get past the concerns. Traffic was a big one, which is a perennial affordable housing trope. I don't know why they think lower income people drive a lot or something. I don't know what's going on. They drive the same amount as you. It's weird. The other thing that we did was start talking really early with neighborhoods, right? Meeting with neighborhood associations before we ever built a thing, before we ever put a thing on paper. Started talking with, we worked really closely with sort of almost what I call like in anthropology, they call it like a key informant, but people in different communities that were trusted, that we just work to educate about what we're doing. One of the biggest problems in Santa Fe around doing big projects like this is misinformation, and we are like the petri dish of misinformation in this town. And so having key people in different groups that both were educated about the project and what it was actually doing, because there's a lot of, like Creative Santa Fe, Bill Miller had a tax credit scheme he was going to get from building affordable housing. There's a million rumors. So like, getting those people both knowledgeable and in their communities spreading good information, and then pointing people with concerns to me. And then when we met people with concerns, we would invite them into the process, or the design process, the events process, the outreach process. And that really helped us do what should have failed probably easily half a dozen times in the last 10 years.
We're going to do one more question.
Edward or Kurt, what do you suggest we do about our huge homeless population now, especially amongst the senior population?
Excellent question. I've been doing this kind of work for a long time. Even though my background is actually in architecture, planning, and real estate, I'm not a social worker. I just got in by a fluke. I walked into the shelter one day to make a donation 37 years ago. Yeah, that's a true story. So I've seen what's happened with the homeless population over the years. I've had a front row seat to it. The population, like all of us, we're aging. Baby boomers are aging, but we're seeing more and more homeless seniors on the street, and it's really sad to see a 70-year-old or even an 80-year-old person living on the streets, living under a bridge or on the sidewalk or whatever. What I would like to do is, before I retire, is to create a senior program, specifically with a shelter and then a supportive housing program right next to it, with medical care, with hospice. One thing that's happened at the Santa Fe Suites, which is really sad, is that we've lost probably 7 or 8 people since we took over, either from cancer or something. And my staff, who are social workers, are acting as hospice workers. God bless them for what they're doing, because they really don't need to be doing it. But it's really critical that we have some senior program. Is there another part to that? Or? Okay, yeah.
Right, I think that's great.
Yes.
Right. So
Great.
you're going to tell us what to do next.
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to thank this incredible panel. We're lucky to have those of you in Santa Fe who's in Santa Fe, and all of you for being on this planet. So thank you for everything you do.
Yes, absolutely. So a quick heads up about this series. We're going to take a break in August, and then we will kick back up in September with a talk with Congresswoman Stansbury and Jesse Roach about water and the future of housing development in the city. That's going to be at Site Santa Fe. And then a couple more exciting speakers throughout the rest of the fall. Tonight, we have food and drinks right around the corner. Part of the hope and goal of this is that you come here, you meet people you didn't know, you talk about housing issues in a way that's not the way we see on a city council meeting. We really get a chance to connect. So please join us for fellowship and food and drink. Thank you for coming.